right. Welcome. Welcome everyone to the first episode. This is a trial. If it goes to shit, it's we'll just try again another time. But this is the first episode of Whiskey with Jo. I am your host, Jo, yeah, so we're going to be covering heaps of topics. But yeah, I'll give you guys a little bit of info on myself. I am an aspiring muso. I'll plug my music page later. I am a whiskey lover. I love comedy. I love manly things. I love the pursuit of being a good man. And you'll get to know my taste over time politically and, with my values and different things like that. That's going to be a fairly decent part of the theme of this podcast, but definitely comedy and just, learning about our guests, learning little lessons in life as we go, just recording fun conversations. And I hope you enjoy. My guest is Jeremy, my best friend. Say hello.
Otherwise known as Jeremy chase.ling.
Yep. Yeah, he's recently had a name change. Not a gender change as of yet, but time will tell.
No, technology's not quite there to have a gender change to be a turtle yet.
Bill Burr says it good. He goes, he says in a different bit, but I just thought it actually relates to that quite a bit. He talks about how people doing like plastic surgery, maybe they should just wait a little bit, because remember when people first started doing hair implants and how they were shit and didn't work out, and then if you waited 10 or 15 years, all of a sudden you're getting some really good results. Well, maybe we should wait another 10 years for gender surgery, just to make sure it goes well and isn't botched. And yeah, maybe we've come a long way. Hey, they've been doing it since what, the 70s or some shit.
Maybe they can have gender surgery, so eventually I'll be walking around and I look like a cow with all these udders hanging off me. They're actually dicks.
So it won't just be gender surgery, it'll be trans anything, like trans animal, trans age. Maybe you'll get your balls changed out for old grey hairy ones that are dropped to the floor.
And what? I'll just get my balls changed out for a big reset button. Every time you just something happens, you get kicked in the balls, you just forget what you were worrying about, and every time they kick you in the balls, you just
Dude, there's a bit in there somewhere where someone is begging someone to kick them in the balls because they got all this stress.
I'm having such a shit day. Kick me in the balls. Kick me in the.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
No, that's workplace harassment.
Yeah, workplace harassment. You would know that working in telco. We're not going to say which place yet, but we.
I know my.
But
let's just say I know my ins and outs.
That's it. Ins and outs.
Copping and.
And?
Huh? What?
You said and then you just left.
This has been recorded. I'm not saying anything else.
Oh, good grief. Righto. Well, the idea of this podcast is to like I said earlier, it's going to be kind of to, just shoot the shit with my friends. Also eventually, hopefully getting some quite, my friends are interesting anyway. I am fortunate enough to know some people from different walks of life, which really influences thought, which is fantastic, because I think if you're always learning, you're always growing. But yeah, so the idea is to just share our stories, and maybe there'll be some great learning involved, or maybe it'll just be a lot of fun. Probably end up being a bit of both. like we'll have certain topics that we may end up going down the route of having a topic each week, and probably some segments that we do each time as well. Who knows if this is going to be weekly actually at this stage, but the idea would be, once generating a following, that we just continue. Now, one segment that we always will do is, this is a whiskey podcast. So the only thing we will be drinking on this podcast is whiskey, because it's Whiskey with Joe. So I'll start off. I'm drinking Buffalo Trace. That's my whiskey. Drinking it in the whiskey glass that I got when I was 21. And yeah, I'm just drinking it in Coke. Just I like a nice sweetish kind of bourbon here and there. Jeremy, what are you drinking?
At the moment, just a premix. One of my favorites. It's Wild Turkey Rare.
It is a favorite, for sure.
It does go down too easily sometimes.
Yes, as we're both well aware.
It's like WD-40. The more you use it, the easier it gets.
True, and the looser you get. There you go. The looser the unit becomes.
The only thing is that the looser you get, the more you start squeaking.
I thought it was supposed to be the less you... Oh, right. That's the thing about... So yeah, the thing for you Americans, because I don't know if hopefully we'll get some Americans listening as well, but here in Australia we have this thing with our spirits in particular, where we'll mix the spirits with the famous things they're supposed to be mixed with. Like generally whiskey's mixed with a cola of some kind. So we actually have the companies, like Coke and let's say it's Jim Beam, or in this case Wild Turkey, will actually partner up, and Wild Turkey will use Coke, and they will bring out a premix. So they'll mix in a particular make of their whiskey, and they will mix it in with Coke, and they'll mix it at different percents. So in this case, Wild Turkey Rare is mixed at 8% alcohol. So it's two standard drinks, as the bars would call it, two standard drinks in one 335 ml bottle.
320
ml, there you go. And so you pick up a 4-pack for $25 roughly, and you've actually got then 8 standard drinks amongst the 4-pack. So that's something we like to do in Australia for convenience, and because a lot of people in Australia like to get on the piss and get hammered. My particular thing that I enjoy about whiskey is the taste, and the way it makes me feel. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good time, but I like to sit back and relax. That's one of the reasons I drink whiskey. And I think a little bit here and there is good for your mental state, to just relax and enjoy talking with mates. So yeah, Jeremy, tell us a bit about yourself, about or should we start with how we met, or who you are first?
I guess how we got to know each other is probably a good place to start. Kind of put things into perspective a bit more.
Yeah, right.
That's a bit more sense.
That's a good point. Jeremy is always of wise counsel. So basically, if I go into my background, and that'll kind of lead into our friendship. So I wanted to be a musician for a while now, like as in a touring one, and one who writes and releases music, and all of the good stuff along with that industry. And so I took a teaching opportunity in music when I was 16 and a half, up in a country town called Emerald, and it's in central Queensland. And yeah, basically, just wanted to be my own man, get out of home, start living my own life. That was part of the opportunity, right? So then I did that for 9 months and enjoyed it thoroughly, but learnt a lot out of it as well, as you do when you first move out of home. And anyway, so I was there for 9 months, but the Emerald's a mining town, and the business fluctuates, and for those serving the miners, miners meaning the people who work in the mines, not people under 18. um, and and anyway, so my teaching days of music were kind of like only here and there because there wasn't enough business. It got low. I probably started in a high and it got low. They were laying off a lot of people who work in the mines. And I wanted to be closer to home. I had moved 1,000 kilometres away because my family's been based generally in Brisbane. So I wanted to move closer to home because I have a little brother, and I was missing out watching him grow up, and he was at a pretty good stage of that kind of life at the time, as he always is to me. Anyway, through some friends, found out about an opportunity to work in a music shop, so selling instruments. So I thought, oh yeah, there's another bit of background for that. So I took the opportunity and moved in with Jeremy's brother, James, and he is a legend. And so, yeah, but my first weekend there, some crazy shit happened. So I think it was my first night there. These guys that James worked with, he worked at an abattoir. I won't say the name of it because I don't like to get people caught up in weird shit. But anyway, speaking of weird shit, so I was there, and I think it was my first or second night. These guys from Jeremy's brother's work came down drunk like midnight and burnt down our bin. And I come out to the next morning to see the bin, and all that's left is the axle, and the tires on the bin were melted because they were rubber, and the bin was just in ashes over the axle. And I remember thinking, and I remember looking at Jeremy's brother look at me, and he was thinking, oh, he's probably like freaked out living here. And I was thinking, where did I just move to? and the weirdness only continued the next weekend because I met Jeremy. and I would say that in the grand scheme, it didn't take long to become mates. But Jeremy is a man of few words, but I didn't grow up with any brothers older than me, so I've always appreciated, men, like friends who are men around my age or just a bit older. I've always gotten on with people older than me anyway. And so there was just something awesome for me about Jeremy, where he was quietly spoken and gentle, but still a great man, and just always something interesting was happening. Like I couldn't ever pin down what kind of person he was at the start, and I was like, and that's still going on to this day in some ways with his humor, but he's always got something misleading, which is fantastic. But yeah, I kind of I just went, oh, I've got to become friends with this guy because he's just so like, I could learn so much from him. He seems really good. And just the crowd at the time that I was hanging out with, really just Jeremy and his brother just seemed so, just had so many qualities that I was kind of looking for to be modeled to me. So I just made an effort to become Jeremy's friend and hang out with him. And Jeremy would come from where he lived to where I was living at the time. He'd come there probably once a month or so. Or maybe it was actually a bit more frequently at that time, probably every fortnight or something. And over the time we just played Call of Duty and talked crap and talked about life, and he's just been a great mate ever since. And we've just he's like to the point where he's now my best friend, and that's been the case October. It would have been October 2016. So
It'd
what?
be coming up 5 years
Yeah, this October.
this October,
Yeah.
because that first weekend that I came up because I was moving house and I was picking up stuff and I was packing it. So that's how I always remember it was about October.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and I remember the reason I remember the dates so well because I know that I moved in. I think it was October 2nd or October 3rd. But the reason I remember the dates so well is because I actually left from that town almost to the day 6 months later. So I got the hottest time of the year there. So from spring through to the start of autumn, kind of. And so I was like, oh, I didn't get to endure the coldness that can happen out there, which I have recently by going out to James's farm there and just going, holy crap, it gets cold at night. I have to rug up and stuff. But yeah, so I left on April Fool's Day. And I was thinking about joking to my bosses and to James saying, April Fools, I'm not leaving on the day, but I obviously was. So there was nothing I could do, but I thought about it. But yeah, so that's how Jeremy and I became mates, and we just ended up having a lot of similar interests, and have also just talked through life when need be. Well, like basically there was a time where we'd talk to each other every day, and we kind of still do, really. So yeah, so tell us. Well, I'll before we go into that, I'll say so. We've hung out a lot and had a lot of similar interests, and one of them that we ended up picking up just because we'd watched a bit of YouTube and saw these people, gaming on this game called PUBG, and I just thought, oh yeah, that's a pretty cool looking game compared to a lot of them, because I'm not a huge gamer, but I like doing it occasionally. That's how I was at the time and still kind of am. But there's only one game I play religiously, and it is PUBG Mobile. And Jeremy and I have been shooting the shit over that now for probably, when do you think it came out, dude? Like 3 years? Or
About, I reckon, 3 years.
yeah. And so and a lot of the friends that I'm going to have on this podcast actually have all been developed through that, except you and I, and just some other people. But some of my American friends that I'd love to have on this podcast are actually going to be, from PUBG is how I met them, because you can play online, live, and you can select your servers. So I selected North America because there's a lot of things I love about it, Anyway, so yeah, the idea of this podcast kind of came about because 3 years ago, I drank a couple of times a week because I was working through some issues in my life, but also I just enjoyed it, and I was, freshly 19, because in Australia, you can drink from the age of 18. So I was actually probably freshly 18, 19. So I've been drinking since 18. And yeah, just, was came to a realization that I need to deal with some stuff in my head. And so I just quietly have a drink and stuff. But I'd also just drink with my friends on PUBG. And my favorite drink has been whiskey ever since I started drinking. And like all kinds of whiskey. So generally I like, Scotch in particular, Scotch and bourbon. So American and Scotch kind of whiskies. And I know that Scotch whiskey technically is its own thing, because the name whiskey is actually spelt different. So one of them's with a Y and one of them's with an EY. I should probably get more in the know on that. But yeah, so I just thought of it for some reason. One night I was just, chatting with the guys. We always say funny and outrageous jokes, and it's kind of like you have to be there kind of thing. But yeah, I just thought, what if I start a podcast called Whiskey with Joe? Because it just, the name flows, and some people call me Joe, Joey, so because my real name's Josiah, so it's just easier to remember that nickname. And I just thought, oh yeah, that'd be cool. So that idea's been brewing for like, I don't know, 2 years maybe of that. Do you think, or even the whole 3 years? I'm kind
of about 2 years.
Yeah. So every now and then I go, oh, I got to start it up because there's current events happening, and I want to comment on current events because I'm a thinker. I'm a thinking kind of guy. I like to analyze things. And I just thought, why not get it started now? Because I'm getting back into my music, and I just want to start putting content out there. I want to, develop my following and also develop my art. And there's no better time than the present. So yeah, that's kind of how this has all come about. This is how I've met Jeremy, and PUBG is one of the ways that we hang out still. But yeah, Jeremy. So like tell people a bit about your interests and also like the things you're kind of aspiring to do, and yeah, the floor's yours, man. And if you have any notes that you might have written down about our friendship or anything like that, like 'cause I want people to kind of be in on it, like just to understand who we are as a collective and why we're so open and chat with each other. And um, yeah, go for it, dude. The floor is yours.
Well, I might just start with the beginning where what you just said. About myself, I'm a very open thinker. So sometimes for me, I'm a bit too open-minded and sometimes think about too much stuff. And I'll think in ways a lot of people probably wouldn't. And I'm very, very creative in that way in terms of how I think. So it can be really helpful, can be not so helpful sometimes, but most of the time. I probably could be on the spectrum to a degree.
Everyone is.
Yeah, everyone's got their position, but sometimes I just wonder if I might be a little bit. I just might be a little bit mentally hyperactive sometimes.
Yep. I identify with that.
Yeah, just always thinking, obviously, of what I'm doing, just general day-to-day stuff, but then I'm also just thinking like way out here about the most random thing you probably wouldn't even, just for no reason, just because my mind wanders. And I guess finding a way how to get it to meet in the middle is the main thing, and getting it to meet in the middle and then using it in a way that I can benefit from that. So that's one thing probably recently has been a big thing to work on, but slowly getting there, and just finding a way to apply that in everyday life and just making the most of it.
Yeah. I like what you're saying, actually. Yeah, because this could lead to other topics, but yeah, like as in, because we'll continue with who you are in a sec, but where we relate that's actually one place that we relate, because when I was about 4, I was diagnosed with like to be on the spectrum with mild Asperger's, because Asperger's is the end of the spectrum. Both ends are gifted, by the way, and just a disclaimer before we get those politically correct people have a go at me for what I'm going to say. There's the two ends of the spectrum, but Asperger's seem to probably be slightly, I don't know if brighter is the word, or whether it's more like they're more cognizant of their environment, whereas so probably not brighter is not the right word, but they're more cognizant of their environment, whereas the autistic side of the autistic spectrum, and by the way, I'm probably using older terms because since then I don't think they really use Asperger's anymore, because it's just AD, which is attention deficit disorder. So I think that's what they use these days. But basically, someone who's on the more Asperger's side of the autistic spectrum is more likely to develop with ease compared to autistic people, the social things that they need to. And there's always something interesting about those people, like if they can develop that. And then when you talk to them and you figure that out, you go, oh, these people see the world completely different from everyone else, right? And I think you and I see the world quite different to a lot of other people, which is why we get each other quite a bit. Because I reckon we're kind of like, so I've been tested, Jeremy hasn't. I actually haven't been like tested like as in for like with it since. But when I was a kid, I had to do, you know, like speech therapy and actually physical therapy. So like we'd do things where we'd call it the wheelbarrow, where they would get me on my hands and they would hold my legs up at their waist and I would walk on my hands because I had poor muscle tone in my hands. Like, so, you know, the way it affects the body because of what they start to refuse to eat and just all those other things, like it's been a huge challenge to always, and you always got to work on it. Like that's what I had to do anyway. So my life has been full of a lot of challenges, like just constantly challenging the thing. And I imagine that in some ways, Jeremy, you've probably experienced some things similar, right? Like not therapy, but I mean like just, you know, because you look at the world differently, trying to, like, I love what you're saying about basically turning it into something beneficial or useful and applying it. I think that's freaking, we got to talk about this in depth sometime, the autism thing, because I think that that's such a cool topic. Like, because I think more people got to understand us, like people like us, because we do see the world in an outrageous way, but that can totally be used for benefit, right?
Oh, totally can.
Yeah.
Totally can. And I've seemed to notice recently anybody else who is kind of being considered as like a bit of an outsider, like people who wouldn't have had like normal childhoods, I guess, or they're just the way they grew up, mainly they just weren't considered as normal. I find like people who are also outsiders to a degree, you find to just instantly just get along with. Like that's something that I've noticed recently with a couple of people that I've met who they've just had like different struggles to other people, and most people generally wouldn't really get it. And then I'd find with other people who would be calling them outsiders, you just click straight away and you just get each other.
Yeah.
Like for example, somebody I've recently met, and they just had a childhood that was different. It had its challenges, and just they've got a different world perspective because of it.
Right.
They're not like anything wrong with them. They're not mentally challenged or anything like that. They just grew up differently, and they do have a completely different perspective of the world because of it. They've seen a different side of life, I guess. And yeah, just
them, right? Like,
hey,
could definitely learn from them. Hey.
like, yeah, that's right. They just, I don't know how to exactly explain it, but they're
kind of like, because I find in talking with people like that, it kind of broadens your view of how, even just of when you're interacting with people, realizing the differences in how they see the world, like, and it helps you better communicate with people who are more considered normal, and I'm using inverted commas here, but like,
That's right. There's kind of like people who are in a box to a degree,
yeah,
and then everybody inside that box kind of understands each other. And then there are people who are outside of the box. Then everybody who's outside of the box understands each other.
yeah, and it's about opening the
And
box up, and I reckon, hey,
yeah, and like just because you're outside of the box doesn't mean you've got anything wrong with you. It's just you've kind of seen something different, a different part of life, or you see the world differently.
yep, 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 I agree, man. Like, and yeah, and like years ago, I don't even remember when it was. Like I was 14 or something. I kind of remembered that, like, well, not remembered, but somehow I just started thinking about, you know, autism and where I sit on it all and everything. And I went, you know what? I see the world in such an analytical way, but that's actually like, and I've noticed time and time again since having that thought, oh, that's been beneficial here. That's been beneficial here. Sometimes it's been negative because I get kind of caught up in things I think about, and that's kind of negatively impacted relationships. So that's where I need to work on the most. But and it's yeah, and but that's not. I'm not saying that you know that's necessarily been bad because it's teaching me things about life as well. Um, but that's just where I need to work on it, I guess. But yeah, just I can totally see the plus in who I am, and I think that that's a powerful place to be because not only will you like because I'll be able to understand people who are outside the box, to use your words, but also um, I'll be able to use it to my advantage in my life, and have already begun doing so. Um, so we definitely have to talk about that again sometime, I reckon. Um, so yeah, so turning it into something beneficial and applying it and creating creating and relationships and income. I'm assuming you're kind of talking about like, is that what you mean when you're saying applying it?
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
because you've got something else that not many people would have. So
Mm,
there'd be somebody out there somewhere who would be looking for that. So
yeah.
certainly,
Yeah.
it's just kind of understanding how you can use it, really, or finding who needs it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. True. And who needs us? Who needs people like that? There are that people who definitely need people like that. With it, like in and outside that the norm or the box or maybe like the dimensions is another way of putting it because then it kind of makes both not sound so separate from each other, but because we're all people in the end, aren't we? um but so I just wanted to get back onto the topic of like who you are and what things you're trying to do. So like so yeah, so like, what kind of things are you aspiring to do at this stage? Like, you know, with with you know, being in that different dimension or different box or whatever it is, but also just the things you want to do. Like, what kind of things do you see yourself doing?
Well, one of the biggest things recently is more uh, coming to basically when it seems to be like when you're growing up, especially when you're in your teenage years, you're try to fit in, and then you try to be like everybody else to a degree,
Yeah,
and it just comes to a point where you realize like um that's just a waste of time just trying to be like everybody else, because
yeah,
why what's the benefit of having uh how would it be beneficial having that little box full?
Hey,
When
never thought of it like that.
exactly right, like that. It like, why does it have to be so many people in that box? Like, how does that benefit people? It's when you look back at history, the most like people who've made a lot of improvements, generally, when you look at their history or their life, is they've always come from outside of the box.
Yeah.
Like the amount of people, like Albert Einstein, he was on the spectrum.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the point of trying to keep the box full?
Yeah.
So you just kind of get to a point when you're growing up where you just get tired of trying to be in the box all the time. And then when you start to realize how great it is being outside of the box for yourself, because number one, you start to feel a lot better. You start to learn more about yourself. You start to see the world in a different way. But it's also more beneficial to other people because what you're able to do with it. It's what you're made to do. You weren't made to be in that box. So
yeah,
it comes to the point. Some people might take a very long time to realize that, though.
Yep. Everyone's on their journey, but yeah, it's like kind of like where it's a domino effect where like once you realize that you don't need to be in the box and then you start to figure out who you are, that's the next domino that it hits, right? And then the next thing is, oh, how can I use this in like as in how can I learn about myself and how I interact in relationships? What kind of things am I like when you start learning about yourself, you also go, what kind of things am I drawn to? Oh, sweet. Like in my example, and we'll get on to later about how this also can relate to you in more recent years, how music and comedy or all those kinds of things where it's kind of uh you know you start to learn those things and they just all end up hitting the next domino, which is actually the next door to open to learning and the next door to growth and you build yourself, and that is beneficial to the people around you because number one, you're an example to everyone else of how to be themselves, because really, though there's a lot of people that do fit into this norm, that a lot of those people still are ending up suppressing a little bit of who they are. And so it's really important that everyone comes to terms with who they are and pushes for that and like grows in that, because everyone's happier when they're happy with who they are. Because like when you're learning about who you are, it actually becomes fun rather than like a lot of like, I'm a melancholy guy. I feel my feelings, right? And so there's times where I've really not liked where I'm at. But I'm glad I've pulled through every time for growth because I've become a better person out of it. And, there's people I've got to look at where I go, I've got to set an example for them, like my little brother and stuff like that. And you do end up positively over time, positively affecting those around you by chasing who you are and what you want out of life. And if everyone could come to the conclusion where they do that, that is very powerful, very powerful, and that changes the world. But a lot of people have their wool pulling over their eyes, in that way where they don't get that life's about pursuing who you are. People seek comfort over opportunity, I guess, because opportunity comes with a bit of discomfort for the learning. Well, I've learned in recent times a lot of discomfort. But yeah, man. So yeah, I totally get you. So where do you see that taking you, like with your career? And I don't just mean one industry. I mean like all the multifaceted things you want to do in your working life. Where do you see that taking you?
Well, It's hard to know exactly where, because the general idea is that when you finish school, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to university.
Yes.
And there's kind of like a generalization because of that. It's just like, you get through your school, okay, now you're going to go to university, you're going to study, get your degree, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then you get married, have a family, have a household. It's very generalized. But when you're kind of like, when you kind of about like go on your own way, you you're basically making the path as you go. It's hard to know exactly where the path is heading, but you know that you're making it as you go. So for yourself, you're obviously going somewhere, but you can't see where it's going.
Yeah.
And some other people you can help on the path with you too, and they can branch off and do their own thing. But
Yeah.
I kind of see it like that. Like, you're not going to know, you're not going to have your whole life planned out,
Oh,
because of it. Especially when you're not in the box again. You're living your life outside the box. So yeah.
yes. There's no,
That's
I suppose like there's no set destination. I kind of like what I'm trying to get at with the question was like, what kind of industries are you looking at working in, or have you worked in the past that have kind of brought you to where you are? But also, yeah, what ones are you interested in working in? And I'm kind of like trying to lead you into plugging a bit about your interests and stuff like that.
I'm trying to work my creativity into the sex industry. That one hasn't had to change up in about 5,000 years.
I just had
It's all the same.
past 30. Uh,
uh, Come on, can't we have a bit more like, I don't know, instead of the typical, why don't we just, I don't know, find a way to make it interesting?
I've been doing that for thousands of years. Uh, oh man. So like, yeah, because I remember like I've talked to you a bit about things you've been interested in, and one we'll get onto soon is music. But like I'd also like to talk with you about like modeling or things like that. Like, do you still see yourself going down that route? Potentially, like even if it's a potential, is that still something you're interested in? And yeah.
Yeah, at this stage, definitely. Life's kind of taken a turn to definitely head that direction a lot more. So that's definitely an opportunity that's come a lot closer because of that. And one that's kind of been like in the background for a while is just slowly catching up to would be music
Yeah.
too. In a strange way,
Yeah.
I never really wanted to, like, it's never something that I thought I would do. And
Right.
as a kid, like, it wasn't really anything that, like, I didn't even think that I had any talent in music at all. And when I was a kid, I had piano lessons, but I hated them. And I did like one, uh, maybe 2 terms or something like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't much, and I don't remember anything from it. I would have been like 8 or 10 or something like that at the time, and I just hated it. Didn't really take anything from it, so I was like, yeah. Um, but then kind of weird how it came back. Uh,
Yeah.
I remember it would have been 2012 or 2010, something like that. Anyway, there's a really popular song at the time which had a really nice piano piece in it,
Mm,
and there was this chick at the time that I really liked, and I know that she really liked that song. So I wanted to, huh?
Yeah, we've all done that.
Yeah. So anyway, I really wanted to learn that song, and it kind of started out that there were a couple of songs that I liked, and then I started learning how to just play those songs. And I've learned how to play them just on YouTube, and I just note down what the key was and all that stuff. And eventually was able to teach myself how to play that particular song. So I just started small and slowly worked my way up, and then eventually ended up learning how to play this particular song. And I don't think I even ever ended up playing it for her anyway. But anyway, what it did though was I ended up learning how the basic structure of music worked, and how keys worked, and all this kind of stuff. So
in a very practical sense, I would say, because there's times when we talk about theory and it's kind of like, oh, what? And well, not oh, what? It's more like because the two kinds of ways to see music is practical and theoretical, and I reckon you're a really practical guy. Like you find those you just find the feeling, which is like really important. It's really important in music, and it's something I'm excited about for your music. So yeah, it's something that I can't wait to yeah to be a part of, man. Because it's just going to be so huge when it actually lifts off. And I'm happy with whatever involvement I have, and to be by your side. And there will be news coming up over this year with that for both of us. But yeah, in this case, I'm really keen to see what happens, because it's been a slow burn. But would you say you kind of started more like, because eventually, where did your music journey go after that? I'll let you say it. Also, just to let you know, this we're using an app at the moment to record the audio as well on a different app, because we're recording on Zoom and also recording on this podcast app called Anchor. But it's letting me know that 60 minutes is the amount of time that it records for. So for like a segment. So we'll probably be able to join the segments together. I'll just let you know when it gets to the 60, and we'll just stop talking.
We'll have a break. I'll go get another drink or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds good. I don't have any more whiskey. I've already run out, so I've been actually drinking water to hydrate myself like a bitch. Don't worry, I will not be so amateur next time around. This has all been spur of the moment to get started again on this Whiskey with Go podcast. But yeah, we got like another 12 minutes yet. So yeah, where's the journey kind of taken you from 2012? Like, what kind of things did you start to do after that?
So once I started learning a couple of different songs, I started to figure out the pattern. That was the main thing. Like, I at the time didn't understand that it was a key, or that it was a note.
So it was collections of feelings almost for you.
Well, not quite. Well, it was more like,
would you say?
To a degree, but what I started to understand was there's a pattern in the keys to every song.
Yeah.
Which turns out to be like the key that was because it's a piano. It's called keys again, what you play.
Yeah.
So I noticed, okay, so this particular song, when I play it, this pattern works, and I can press any key in this pattern and it will work. And then I played another song, and then I was like, oh, this one has a different pattern. I can't press this key, but I can press that key, and it works. So then from there on, I started to figure out, so all these different patterns, every song has a different pattern. And then from there, I started to improvise a bit more.
Yeah.
So I then started playing the songs that I liked in the keys or the pattern. And I'm like, oh, this sounds cool. It's not the same song, it sounds similar, but I like the sound of it. And it kind of kept building from there and kept going on and on until I figure out that, so this pattern is what they call a key. And then within that key, you can play a song, and everything has a key, and then blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So over the years, just playing for the enjoyment of it, I started then creating a little bit more, started kind of playing my own songs that I would create for the enjoyment and a bit of the emotion behind it too. It was actually ironic because the chick that I learnt that song to play for ended up, falling through. So as like a bit of a coping mechanism, started getting into the music side a bit more, which I found helped to get through that.
Yeah, I feel
And then it kind of all built up from there. And then the more you did it, the more I learnt. So then it got to the point where I started recording just audio.
Yeah.
Just recording myself playing to help myself relax, help myself sleep. And then kept doing that a bit. And then I was like, I might send this to somebody. And they're like, like it was a real positive reaction from it. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because one of my love languages,
words
of affirmation. It's like, oh, okay.
Okay, that's something I didn't even know about you, dude. There you go.
Interesting.
It makes sense.
So
it makes sense. Yeah.
So then I started recording a couple of stuff and just working on it. Might just me playing the piano, nothing crazy. And then I ended up putting one on YouTube, just for the sake of it.
Was that recorded through your phone, or did you start to use a DAW, which is digital audio ware, which we'll talk about soon, because that's kind of one thing just so that people
No.
Oh no, that was just recorded.
That was just on my phone, literally, just cheap little phone.
Sweet.
It's still on YouTube as well.
Oh yeah, is it on
still up?
Your normal channel?
No, same main channel still.
Did
I kept it there.
At this point?
Huh?
Did I know?
I don't know. If you didn't, it was just before.
Okay. And was the person sent it to Renee or something like that? Or sorry to use names, but it's just
no. I wasn't really that close with them back then.
Oh yeah.
I don't know who I sent it to.
Hmm.
I can remember when I started. Like I sent you the odd thing.
Yes, and yeah. And it was getting me a bit excited because I'm like, oh, my best friend's also interested in music, and which just felt good. And you've always been really supportive of my journey with it, and it's just always cool to hear your feedback. Because you understand me so well, like it's good fun to explore. What do you think of this one? What do you think of this one? Or just to be able to send it to you so that I can feel like I've sent it out to the world a little bit, even though technically I haven't. But world, again, this year, I can feel it happening, and I know that it's kind of happening already because I'm in the recording process of my first EP, which is very exciting. So yeah. So yeah, we'll plug that soon. Yeah. Oh, did you change it back?
Huh?
Did you change it back? The username? Oh no.
No. Oh, the
Oh,
username's always been the same. I just changed my name.
mm, yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. So just so that we're knowing kind of the rough time, we're on 55 minutes right now. So then we got so did you want to grab
5 minutes.
or did you want to go for 5? Well, we can finish
We'll just
and then
we'll just quickly finish this segment.
yeah, sweet.
So
Yeah, you're
yeah,
creative.
so basically I just got my phone and just like recorded it down playing piano from there. Yeah, it's pretty nice. I actually still listened to it just the other day and I was like, yeah, this is simple but nice, and I enjoyed it. And then kind of from there I started doing that a little bit more, but changing the way I did it. I would just have like a nice photo and then add the music to it, because I know that I enjoyed listening to it sometimes to help me relax, and I would send it to a couple of people. I started sending it to a couple more people and they're like, oh, this is really nice, relaxing. I listen to this when I'm going to sleep and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like people are starting, like people enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I was just started to think, okay, I might start looking to better it a bit more and perfect it a bit more, because it was very chilled, very easygoing. It wasn't really seriously taken or anything like that. But yeah, just people kept saying that they liked that kind of stuff. So I started to build on that a bit more and started to think a bit more of making more of that stuff. So push came to come to shove. I ended up starting. This is then when you came into the picture. We would use your equipment and actually
Yes.
started recording the stuff.
Yeah.
And then kind of through that, we started using GarageBand.
We did. Yeah.
And then a few more doors opened, and then we can't, well, I know I definitely kind of realized more possibilities behind it.
I was already realizing this about you at that time. That's why I was so keen to do it with you. Cause yeah, like because we ended up like writing a song together, which will be on a collaborations project further down the track. Huh, to use a musical pun, further down the track. Yeah, that was so lame. Anyway, yeah, um, so that one's going to be fun. Like, yeah, I can't wait to put that out too. Like, as in, that one is just special because it's the first song we wrote together, and when it's professionally recorded, it'll have like a really cool kind of vibe, I think, and not that it's going to like hit the top of the charts, but it's just going to be something where we go, this is something we enjoy because of the time we spent on it.
Yeah, it's like it's when an artist puts out a song for them, because
Yeah,
it means something to them. It's not for the people. They can enjoy it if they want to, but
yeah, and we hope people
yeah,
enjoy it, but it's not like that's what it's not hanging on to that. It's not going, our feeling about this song is hanging in the balance of whether people, like actually like it or not.
yeah,
um, it's totally not about that.
this it's there so people can enjoy it.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
from that point on, I started to
we got 1 minute left,
we
just saying.
1 minute. Damn. Okay, we started to collaborate a little bit more,
Yes, we did. Yeah,
and then
and that kind of opened your mind a bit to
it
some things, I imagine.
really did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so what we might actually, because I got a few
If
more
we
things I can think
break
of.
that now, yeah, write
Yeah,
those things down, and yes, I'll just quickly plug. So we're gonna continue tonight, but we're just gonna break this into segments. So whether it's a part 2 released a day or so later, or whether we can actually join the segments together, I'm unsure because it's the first time using this app. The whole thing, we could put on YouTube on this Zoom, because I'm recording it on Zoom as well. But we may end up doing it in 2 parts just to tease people. But thanks for joining for part 1 of episode 1, and we will see you guys shortly. Actually, if you want, Jel, we can end this this recording as well and start it again, so that it's just all a part 2, all universal. Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, sweet.
Sounds
We'll
good.
take a break and be back in a sec. But I'll keep the Zoom
All
on.
right.
I'll just stop recording now. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Sweet.